You're going to work hard to try to create that and to try to get others to also be honest. You're going to try to perpetuate these things on this side of the board, any of these things on your list. You will also be on the lookout for this. You're going to be on the lookout. And your antenna will be up. And as soon as you see that, you're going to hone in on it. And you're going to hone in on it because this you don't want to see. You don't want to see that. So as you go to create your village, you're going to be trying to look out for this, eradicate this. This might become the beginning of the list of people who cannot live in your village. It's true. These are the people that you wouldn't necessarily want to associate yourself so much with. If sports was really big and you grew up in an athletic family where everybody had to get out there and run, toss, bounce, do something, you're going to be looking out for those sports type people. No, you play too much volleyball. I can't keep up. I don't want to feel bad about that anymore. My daughter would be this person here. I think I'm going to keep my fingernails. Me, I don't have much of fingernails. Not that much of a sports person, really. But, you know, hard work, getting out there and doing stuff, that would be me. Some things change over time, like work ethic. When my parents were growing up, they were expected to go to school, but they were also expected when they finished school to get a job and to help support the family because you contribute back to the family. And so my father did go to engineering school. That was after the military. My mother went to nursing school and then started contributing back to her family until she got married and then she raised a family. When I was growing up, my parents wanted us to go to school. Obviously, my dad wanted us to get A's. I was better at it than some of my other siblings. And we were expected to go to college. So yes, you're supposed to do good in school. And you're supposed to go to college. So since you're supposed to go to college, you know, no, not a bunch of extracurricular activities. Not a bunch of trying to get a job and work. No, your job is to get A's in school and go to college, period. So when my husband and I were raising our kids, education is important. And yes, we do want you to go to college. But we want you to have extracurricular activities. We want you to be a well-rounded person. You don't have to get a job. Not now, not yet. Focus on school, focus on yourself, build some character, know who you are. And then we call them lazy. Because they don't work. They go to school and they engage in extracurricular activities. So some of these things change with generation. Some of them, like honesty, it depends on what you mean by that. Honesty is, a lot of people say honesty is an important value, but it depends on what you mean. Some people are just brutally blunt and blatant, and they call that honesty. They're the ones who look at you and say, you know, that doesn't look good on you at all. As a matter of fact, it makes you look sick and ugly. I don't mean that, Sandy. That would be my sister. I don't know why you put that on. That looks ugly. I'm just being honest. Somebody had to tell you. Don't go out of the house looking like that. Those are all, it sounds funny, those are all things my sister has said. I'm not even joking. For other people, honesty means being forthright about what you believe and who you are and what you think and how you feel. So even how you define that is going to impact your village. So as you think about team building, think about what your important values are. And think about the ones that you're on the lookout for. Because sometimes, when we're on the lookout for things like this, what we're doing is we're making decisions about who gets to live in our village, maybe even before we fully know what they mean by it. Or if they can coexist in the village. So if you're going to have a diverse village, you may need some of those people. You don't have to be them, but you might need them. So when I ask people who gets to live in your village, what that really means is how you have to figure out how comfortable you are creating a village, creating community, creating friendship circles, creating home environments with people who might not see things exactly the way you do. And it doesn't mean it's a good thing or a bad thing. All it means is that you need to know. That's all it means. If you are really uncomfortable with people who insist on having a clean house, because there are those people who, like, it's almost obsessive compulsive with the cleaning. And that's okay, if they don't mind doing it for you. No, really, if they don't mind doing it for you. So if you have a roommate who loves to clean and you don't, and she doesn't mind cleaning for you, and you don't mind the fact that she sometimes gets a little annoyed that maybe, you left that bowl of cereal sitting there on the counter, if you guys can coexist, then you can. But if you absolutely don't have any patience or tolerance for the people on the no side of your list, you need to know that about yourself so that you aren't trying to create a village that doesn't exist. Now, even saying all that, we don't get to choose sometimes what those villages are. This class, if you consider this a village, this is a community, you didn't get to stand at registration. You, yes. You, no. You, I'm still thinking. You didn't get to do that. You got put into an environment, this village, that everybody came to. That's why I said, who gets to come and who doesn't. Sometimes you don't really have any control over that, and what do you do when people come that you don't want there necessarily? So you didn't create this, but here it is. Some people think they want a village, and they really don't. They just want to be an inhabitant. There is nothing wrong with that. Sometimes we come up with these beautiful little sayings, and then everybody feels pressured to have to do that. This is really all about team building. Now, you still have to be a team, so you guys still have to be a class. So even though, do all of you know each other really well? No. Okay. But if there were a class discussion, you might have to have a conversation with somebody you don't know really well. They may be on this side of your list, or they may be on that side of your list. But you won't know that until you're talking with them. So you still have to be a team, though. You can't break out in a fist fight in class over whether or not the house needs to be clean. I bring those things up because those sound like they're funny things, but those are the things that people end up, really disagreeing about. So you don't always get to create that village. When you go into the workplace, the same thing will happen, but you'll still be expected to work together with people. So your task, then, is to get to know all the people in your village. A lot of times people don't like that. A lot of times, especially in a class this size, I went to the University of Washington, and the very first class I walked into was in Kane Hall. I was horrified. There were 300 people in there. I knew I was in the wrong place. I had to be in the wrong place. I had to be. There was no way that 300 people was a class. There was just no way. But it was. One of the things, though, that happened with the class like that is you can come in, you can sit in the back, you can do whatever you want. You're not accountable to anybody. Not anybody. And then you have people like me who come in and make you talk to people. And it's like, no, we're just supposed to sit here and listen to you talk. That's why it's an auditorium. And I make people talk. And when I go and do conferences and workshops, I do the same thing. I make people talk to each other. Occasionally people get up and leave. No, not really. But if you're going to have a village, if you're going to create the village, you have to get to know the people who are there. So, your next exercise, how do you get to know the people in your village when you really just don't know them, or you don't like them? They live in your village. We don't all like everybody we're with. We don't. I tell people that all the time, and that's okay. That's normal. You are not honest. I tell people who work with young children, you are not honest if you say you love every single child you've ever come in touch with. All of us know at least one kid that we hope they're going to be absent that day. We all know at least one. So I want you to think of somebody that you don't get along with too well. It could be a relative, it could be a coworker, it could be a sibling, someone that you don't particularly like, someone that you find, I don't know, lazy, arrogant, sloppy, uninterested and uninteresting. You find them rude, or you just think that they think wrong. They just think wrong. I think right, they think wrong. Does everybody have, it has to be somebody that you are, somewhat familiar with. So it can't be some fictional person. Get a good image in your mind. For most people, that face pops up almost automatically. And if you don't have anybody that you don't particularly like or get along with, then we have to go back and re-examine the definition of honesty. Because I don't know very many people who absolutely love every single person truly. So, you got somebody in mind? Okay. So, when I was a little girl, I went to stay with my grandmother in Arkansas, where we didn't have to hack through the trees in the forest to get to the grocery store. And I came home, and I was telling her about this little girl. I was about 10, and I was telling her about this little girl that I knew. Well, she's really not all that, and she thinks she's cute, but she's really not. And I'm smarter than she is because I got A's on this, and I'm this, and I'm that, and she's not this, and she's not that. And my grandmother, she was an adorable woman. One of those typical kind of ones that would be sitting in the rocking chair, twiddling her thumbs, laughing. I think she's chuckling with me. She's chuckling at me. I know that now. I didn't know that then. I thought, I'm just going to keep telling my grandmother how awful this little girl is. I hated that little girl. And my grandmother said, well, baby, even a broken clock is right 2 times every single day. A broken clock on top of a trash heap that no one will ever see for an eternity is dead on right 2 times every single day, whether you're looking or you're not. I'm sure that little girl got at least 2 good qualities. When you figure out what those are, you come back and tell me. And what I realized is that I actually hadn't spent any time trying to find any good in the girl, because I was pretty sure that she was ungoodable. I know that's not a word, but that's what I could have thought of. I was pretty sure she was ungoodable. There was nothing good about her. And my grandmother, her words have stuck with me. I mean, I'm 55. That's 45 years of having my grandmother say, the broken clock. So every time I start being negative about somebody, I hear her. Broken clock, find 2 good things. So, now what you're going to do is you don't have to say who the person is, because the person might be in the room, you never know. But I want you to think honestly about what is good about that person. And not fake good, like, well, she doesn't pick up after herself. Because if you don't really value that, really value that, then you really don't think that's good. You're just making stuff up. Now, for some people, they're like, why the heck are we doing this? Because if you're going to create a village, you have to know people. And if you don't know at least 2 good things about everybody who lives in your village, you don't have a village. You have a bunch of people who happen to live there, and even if there's only 500 of you, you are not a village. Or you have to decide it's not important to create a village. But most people want to have some kind of a community that they live in, some kind of group of people that they live in, that they're happy with. And you will work with people that you may or may not like. But you still have to work with them. Your boss is not going to let you, might tell you to go fight in the parking lot or something. You have to do that on break. But you have to get along with them, and you'll have to work with them, and you'll have to do things with them. And I've been in jobs and positions, and some of you, like even when you work like with groups and teams and stuff, your own teammates will like sabotage your efforts. And you're supposed to be working together. It's like, we're supposed to be doing this together. Well, so I want you to think about the 2 things about that person that's really good, that you don't necessarily give them credit for, and they deserve credit for it because that broken clock is absolutely right to the second, once in the morning and once at night, every single day. So if you don't know what those 2 things are, then your job is to find out what those 2 things are. So think about what those 2 things might be and share them with somebody next to you. You don't have to talk about the person, but if you want to describe a little bit about the person, you can. No names, please.
mom doesn't know what else to say. She'll always say to me, like, well, she has a good work. And I don't know what that means, but I think it's her effort to find those two things. That's one. We're happy to hear.
Okay. Have you found out a lot about that person? Tell me some of the qualities of this person who is a broken clock in your life. And don't forget, in somebody's life, you may be that broken clock.
Really active community member. Stand up for a friend.
Cares for family. Cares for family.
Shares a similar interest. Loyal. Presents herself well.
She knows what it means. And I'm not saying that meaning I don't. I'm just saying that, you know.
She's good at her job.
Good provider.
Outgoing. Follows through.
Sense of humor.
A good teacher.
A good teacher and
Knowledgeable.
knowledgeable. Maybe. One more? Book smart. Does she have any common sense? Who said book smart? Was that you? Does she have common sense?
Yeah.
I only ask because I used to get called, my mother always told me I was book smart, but I didn't have any common sense. And I always wondered if the two could ever coexist. I decided my answer is yes. So, now think about this. You have created a village. You are building a team. You are putting together a crew for a project, for a work assignment. You've moved to a new place and you're looking for new friends. You're starting a family and you're creating a home. And somebody said the one person you cannot include in your community has to be an active community member who stands up for friends, who cares for family, shares similar interests, who's loyal, presents herself well, is good at her job, is a good provider, is outgoing, follows through, has a good sense of humor, is a good teacher, knowledgeable, and book smart. That person can't come. That wouldn't make any sense, right? So when you're putting together a team, when you're thinking about, and it's going to be different if it's personal, obviously. It's going to be different if it's personal than if it's more work-related. And it's going to be really different if it's not just your circle of friends, but you're creating a family, you're creating your own community. It can be really different, but you need people who actually aren't all exactly like you. And there's a good reason for that. I told the group I was meeting with yesterday for lunch about going to a potluck. We've all been to potlucks. And what if, when you went to the potluck, everybody had to bring potato salad? because that's what you eat at a potluck, is potato salad. So everybody has to bring it. You have a whole lot of potato salad. Not only that, some of it will be really good, and those people will get praised. Some of it won't, it'll just kind of be mediocre, and those people will just be forgotten. How was that potato salad? Some people will make really bad potato salad, and they will be criticized because everybody brought potato salad. But what if each one of you brought to the potluck either the thing you make best or the thing you buy that tastes best? Not everybody cooks. I do. But what if everybody bought the most delicious thing they could make or buy? Then think of what you'd have at that potluck. You'd have so much good food, and everybody would have something to contribute. That's the thing about a real village. In a real village, everybody has something to contribute. Everybody has a valued role. Everybody has something to bring and something to offer. And even those broken clocks bring a whole board full of stuff that we would actually want to have as part of our team. So you have to work on looking beyond what you expect people to bring. I expect you to bring potato salad, but you don't make potato salad so well. You're never going to live up to my expectations, ever. Yours is great. We're going to be clapping for you every time you walk in the room. You get to feel bad, and yours, I don't even remember what yours tastes like. Which one was it again? Who are you? Oh, I'm just the cook. That was Miss Belly. Nobody paid any attention to her except for the kids, because they knew all those good things about Miss Belly that she brought that other people weren't paying attention to. Without Miss Belly there, on days when Miss Belly wasn't there, my daughter was well aware that Miss Belly didn't come today. So how was lunch? We had soup out of a can. Miss Belly cooked, by the way. That was one. She was the cook, and she actually really did cook. So, in thinking about the best thing you can bring to a potluck, your next and probably final small group conversation is when it comes to a team or a village or a community or creating your family or a job or a work project, what is the best thing you bring to that team, to that village? The best thing you bring. Share. Before I find out what you're bringing to the potluck, I have to say I looked down and I noticed there was like chalk dust all over my pants and everything from holding this chalk. And this has absolutely nothing to do with team building, but it was hysterical to me at least. So when I was a freshman, I had a trigonometry class, and I literally had an absent-minded professor. The man would like have two different socks on, and sometimes maybe not even the same color shoes on, and his hair was wild, and his glasses were skewed, and he used to stand up at the board and write equations, and he'd look at it for a while, and he'd erase it with his hand, and then he'd scratch his head, and rub his face, and he rarely turned around, but when he did, oh my God, the man was a mess. He was literally covered in chalk, and so I got up and I looked down, and I realized I had chalk all over my knees. So, what are you bringing to the pot? Potato salad. Really? Good potato salad? Okay. It's all right. We'll put that up here anyway. It's a good reminder. What's the best thing you're bringing to your team?
Leadership.
What else?
Positive attitude. Patience. Motivation. Commitment.
Commitment, and I heard another one up there.
Humor. Versatility.
Direction.
Direction, yeah.
Hard work.
Courage.
Organization.
And one more. So these are all the things in this group that you guys are bringing to the village, to the community, to the work that you might do together. And these are all really good things. And they fit in well with the other list that we have of the people who may be our broken clocks. And if you are a broken clock, someone may be, and most of us actually are for some people. I'm sure that not everybody likes me. That's my siblings. But when you combine all of this with all of the other things, and you think about what your important values are, and you think that about other people's important values, the point is to be intentional about creating a village. It takes a village to raise a child. That sounds really lovely. But you can't create a village if you don't know what everybody's role is in it. So if you have a team project that you're working on, it's really important to be clear on what the roles are. I've worked with so many groups of students who will say things like, well, you know, we had this team project and one person didn't do anything and got the same grade as the rest of us. Nobody likes that. And many of us have been in a situation where that happens. But the reason why you think about the village is what can that person bring? And then expect them to bring that. That's when I look at team members and I said, you know what, you're bringing me potato salad, you don't make it very well. But I do know that you make a really nice macaroni salad. So that's what I expect you to bring. Because you do that really well. Instead of asking people to bring what they cannot bring or what they don't do well. To require of people the things that they do well. And to actually be explicit about it. If you have a real village and you have a carpenter and the person won't carpet, he's pointless or she's pointless. It's like, what good are you? We need a carpenter. You're not holding up your end of the bargain. And most villages don't have 700 carpenters. So it's like, it's all on you. That's what you need to bring. So first of all, decide what your village looks like, what kind of people you want to surround yourself with, what kind of family you want to create, what kind of work environment you're working hard to create. And we don't all have control over our working environments, but we will be bringing those important values. We will be bringing those things. Those things will show up everywhere you go because those are important to you. So think about that. Think about who's not included. And it didn't, you know, with Miss Valley, they all loved her. Everybody loved her. She just wasn't considered part of the staff when it came to professional development. Well, she doesn't need to know any of this child development stuff. She's just a cook. And she didn't come. She knew she wasn't part of the village. So it was really kind of frustrating for me. So I do tend to tell that story all the time. As a matter of fact, I think it's in my book. Because it was just so amazing to me how important that woman was in my daughter's everyday life and how invisible she was everywhere else. So think about who's not on your team, who's not expected to show up, who isn't being held accountable, who isn't being encouraged to participate and bring their one good thing or two good things to the project or to the effort. So if you were in my class when I teach the class, then you would have a homework assignment. And your homework assignment would be that if you didn't know anything about your broken clock, you had to come back and say some real good stuff about your broken clock. And sometimes people would just come back and make that up. It's just an assignment. I'll just come back and say, she's really honest, has a lot of integrity. Debra doesn't know her, it's not going to matter. But what does matter is that you're still not investing in your own village. That's what matters. It doesn't matter what I know about this person. I don't know the person. What matters is what you know about the person. And the other piece of your homework is to get to know what else is in the village, what else is in the community. So when you're at a place like the University of Idaho, you have this whole little village here. But there are a whole bunch of little pockets of villages around here, outside of campus, for example. And so part of creating a village, and it's easy enough to do when, in a situation like this. Yeah, you go to Pullman, you go to Boise, might go to Coeur d'Alene. There might be a lot of places where you might go. You wander outside your village and start linking up, because there are other resources out there. When you were driving me in and you said, well, there's just that one mall. And I think it was Jordan last night who said, yeah, I was kind of bummed out. I could stand at one end and look all the way to the other end of it. Well, there are other places outside where there might be other things. They might be farther away, but you can still go there. So part of what the assignment then would be, what are all the things that are out there that you actually could take advantage of? As college students, you kind of know that. It's like, okay, we can't go to that hangout spot anymore. We've been going there for like a couple months. Need some new places, some new people, some new stuff on the walls. And you get out and you go find other places to go hang out. So the same thing would have to happen in a village. Those people who do not live in your village, and I asked you, what do other people think about your village? What do people who don't live in your village think about it? Part of creating a village and building community and team building is to get outside of what you know and go find out a little bit of something about somebody else's village. Then you can bring back some new recipes for that potluck. So I'm going to stop there because it's time to stop. You said you had